Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'll just wait a few minutes for people to join and then we'll get started. Alrighty, we hit the top of the hour, so we will begin. Thanks everyone for joining us today for this RAIN Alliance webinar, a year in review. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a few logistics. All participants are placed on mute throughout the call. So if you have any questions or comments, please submit them using the chat box on the control panel on your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Additionally, the call is being recorded and the recording will be made available to the public on the RAIN website. So on behalf of the RAIN Alliance, I'm delighted to introduce to you Aileen Ryan, Executive Director of the RAIN Alliance. Thank you for being here today, Aileen. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final webinar of 2024. I thought it would be useful to share with you our year in review. We have had an immensely busy 2024. We have collectively achieved a huge amount, and it's always nice to take the opportunity to look back and think about all of the things that have happened, all of the things that we've achieved, all of the work that continues to be ongoing into 2025. And also, of course, use 2024 as a springboard and a platform from which to evolve our priorities for 2025. So that's exactly what I want to do in this webinar, is look back at the RAIN Alliance activities during 2024 and talk a little bit about 2025 and what you can expect from the organisation as we go forward. I'm very happy to take questions at the end. As Elizabeth said, you can type them into the box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll come to those later on in the presentation. But to begin with, I wanted to just remind everybody about what is the RAIN Alliance. And this is probably the last time we're going to use this lovely 10th anniversary banner. So 2024 has been the 10th anniversary of the RAIN Alliance, and we've done a number of things to celebrate that anniversary at our event in Taiwan that we held in May of this year, and various online activities, surveys and fun questions on Basecamp, etc., that we used to kind of reminisce and think back about our colleagues and activities that have been done under the auspices of the RAIN Alliance over the last decade. And the goal of the RAIN Alliance when it was established really remains fundamentally the same. So the goal of the RAIN Alliance is to drive and accelerate market adoption of RAIN technology. And in particular, use RAIN technology to create a smarter and more sustainable world. And so in order to do that, in order to accelerate market adoption of the technology, many of the activities that we undertake within the RAIN Alliance involve removing strategic barriers to industry growth. So I think if I were to encapsulate in a single sentence, what does the RAIN Alliance actually do? Well, we help to open up opportunities to accelerate RAIN adoption and help to remove any strategic or systemic barriers to that adoption. RAIN Alliance has a board of directors which is elected by the membership on and each board member serves a 2-year term. In order to maintain continuity in the board, we alternatively elect 3 board members one year and 4 board members the following year. This is our current roster of board directors, and they are all wonderful and a tremendous support to me in my executive position. But I would just like to take this opportunity to point out to you that nominations for board seats for the 2025 elections, nomination time is right now until the new year, and the election period will start in the February timeframe, I believe. And any of our members may nominate somebody to run for a board position. There are actually going to be 4 board seats up for election next year. So the board members on this slide who will be potentially standing for re-election if they have made that decision, or their seats at least will be open for election, will be Juho Partanen from Voyantic, Lewis Lin from Horizon, Pierre Muller from EM Micro, and Ralph from NXP. So those 4 seats will be up for election in the new year. So please do get your nominations in and be prepared to have your principal contact vote when the time is right. I also thought it would be useful to share with you the staff team that supports the Alliance. So when I joined the organization 2 years ago, we did not really have a dedicated staff team. So, and I'm really proud of everybody who has joined the team in the last couple of years. So George, many of you will know, heads up a training function, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few slides' time. Sarah and Joe joined us this year, and they are working on membership development and membership engagement. And many of you will have already spoken with both either Joe or Sarah, or possibly both. Suzanne also joined us this year, and her focus is digital product passport. So making sure RAIN technology is appropriately represented where it needs to be as that digital product passport legislation is currently being defined. Mindy joined us last year actually as conference director, and she's produced in this year 2 absolutely stellar conferences, and I'll talk a little bit about those again in a few slides' time. And last but by no means least, Joe Prisu-Flugel joined us shortly after I joined the organization actually, and Joe is the head of regulatory affairs. So he has spent an enormous amount of time, but very fruitfully spent his time working both within the European regulatory environment as well as the American regulatory environment this year. And we'll talk a little bit about the successes and changes that we have seen there as a result of Joe's work too. So just thought it would be useful for you to be able to put faces to the names if you're not already able to do that. Now, finally, in terms of support structures for the organization, I did want to mention that we have an Asian Advisory Council in place, which is consists of Asian-based members of the RAIN Alliance. So you can see the logos of the companies here on the left-hand side, the companies who are involved in that Asian advisory group. That group is a really tremendous support for me because I'm not based in Asia. So they're kind of my eyes and ears and help me to understand and help me to help to coordinate member activity in the region. They run a WeChat public platform, which has just short of 1,000 followers on it, and they translate a lot of material like our monthly newsletters and other important communications onto that WeChat platform. We published our Bridging the Gap sustainability report in Chinese when that was published back in the April-May timeframe, and we also published our market research report in Chinese, and both of those are available on our website if you wish to take a look at them. And then towards the end of this year, we were lucky enough to be involved in 3 quite important conferences and events in Asia. Lewis Lin, one of our board members, kindly represented the RAIN Alliance at the EIoT conference in Shenzhen in November. So he represented me there. I personally attended the AIM Asia event in Macau also in November. And then George, our head of training, represented the Alliance at Label Expo in Shenzhen just 10 days ago. So those 3 events were really great for us, a great opportunity for us to be on the ground locally, meeting with members and prospective members as well. And some of you will also have spotted that we have started to publish our monthly newsletter in both Mandarin and Japanese. And the access rates to those newsletters, those translated newsletters, are being monitored actively so that we know whether we should continue with that practice as we move through 2025. Now, looking back at the year, so what I've talked about so far is kind of the structural elements, the staffing, the board, the Asian advisory group. Now I'm going to look at, well, what did we do? What kind of things did the RAIN Alliance deliver? So when we think about the RAIN Alliance, and this is some new thinking that Sarah and Joe have done since they joined and really put a firm focus on how do we express ourselves to our members and how do we ensure our members are engaging across a whole variety of offerings that we provide. So we talk about the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and to be informed. So being seen is an opportunity to connect and network with other professionals within our industry. Of course, we, as you probably know, we have over 150 member companies globally. A lot of people are working actively within working groups or attending our events. So we provide a lot of opportunities for you to be seen. We also absolutely love to when our members contribute their ideas and their expertise, leading work groups, participating in work groups, helping us to influence policy and regulation on behalf of the membership, the global membership. And finally, the RAIN Alliance offers many opportunities for you to be informed. So ranging from our monthly newsletter to training courses, many of which will be moving online as we move to 2025, which will give people additional access opportunities, as well as market research and white papers and other resources that we share regularly on our website. So you can kind of watch out for this thematic of be seen, be heard, be informed as we start to move into 2025. Delighted to let you know that we had significant number of new members in 2024. These are their logos and we welcome them all to the RAIN Alliance. Many of these companies have already really started to engage in working groups and accessing resources, and we as a staff team are working to make sure they're connected wherever they feel like it's most appropriate for them to be connected. So welcome to all of these new members for 2024. Now we have, like many organizations similar to the RAIN Alliance, we have a concept of working groups and or communities, and I'll talk a little bit about those as I build out this slide here, which takes some time, and now I've gone too far. So we have 12 active working groups and communities standing at the moment, and I'm really proud of that, because if we wind the clock back 12 months, we had 6 active work groups in place. So we've started to see some really great energy and momentum and drive and increased contribution levels across a whole variety of different topics. And I'm just going to give a 1 or 2 sentence description of each of these areas of interest. So taking them maybe from the left-hand side, Joe Priestley-Berflugel heads a radio regulations advisory group. And that's a group that he has, a group of members that he has built around himself to support him and to make sure that we're influencing and that we're aware of developments in spectrum regulation in particular globally, so that we know that we're able to defend against any threats, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, and so that we're also able to influence regulation in a positive way to make rain product design, rain system design, rain deployments easier. And we've had a lot of successes in that in this year. And my thanks to that group. We'll talk a little bit about their specific successes in a few slides. We also have a new group, two new groups actually related to Digital Product Passport. So this one here on the left is the Digital Product Passport Advocacy Advisory Group, and on the right-hand side, you'll also see a Digital Product Passport group. Those two groups are working very close together, and if I were to try to articulate the similarities and differences or the point of intersection, the Digital Product Passport group was established first, and the goals of that group were really to educate us all on what on earth is Digital Product Passport and why does it matter and what does it mean for our industry going forward. And they have created a fantastic position paper and also an FAQ related to Digital Product Passport, both of which are on our website. And if you haven't accessed those resources, I strongly urge you to do that, because they're hugely informative and very straightforward. You know, they've been written in an educational format to help us all quickly grasp what does this whole concept of Digital Product Passport mean and why is it important. The Advocacy Advisory Group, on the other hand, is the group that is actively helping us to lobby and work on behalf of our members to make sure the standards associated with Digital Product Passport and the legislation associated with Digital Product Passport, that RAIN technology is appropriately represented, that the benefits of this technology are well understood, and appropriate use cases and opportunities for deployment of this technology in the context of Digital Product Passport are available as we move forward. So they're kind of, the two groups are two sides of the same coin. One is looking at the industry and making sure we are, as an industry, ready to embrace the opportunity. And the advocacy group is making sure, from a legislative point of view, that the opportunity emerges for us that we can embrace. Our plastics packaging tiger team was established about 18 months ago. They've been working with a third-party testing house in order to understand the impact of RAIN technology on the recycling of plastics packaging. And that group has made a lot of progress, continues to make a lot of progress, and I'm hoping we'll be producing a white paper or some deliverables in the very near future, in the first half of 2025. Our Smart Mobility group has very recently delivered a white paper, which is available on our website. That group has now kind of completed the current phase of work activity that they undertook. So again, encourage you to have a look at that very new resource on our website. In the middle here, we have two very important groups. One is a developers work group, and the second is a technical work group. And together, those two form what we call our how-to community. So any questions that I have or members have around how do I make sure that I'm implementing the air interface protocol correctly? How do I influence the next generation or the next phase of any of those standards? How do I make sure I've correctly implemented the communications, the reader interface, for example? All of that activity is handled by some incredibly intelligent people. I was going to say gentlemen, but I'm not actually sure that they are all gentlemen now. So some fantastic brains working in that how-to community focused on how do we enable software teams to engage with RAIN technology at the top of the stack, and how do we make sure that the standard constantly evolves and that we understand the evolution of that standard. Next, we have a healthcare working group. This is also one of the longer standing working groups, and they have been very active this year in a number of ways. They've produced some really important blog posts. They have pulled together a really fantastic webinar, which we hosted in the August timeframe, and I strongly recommend anyone with an interest in the healthcare and pharma space go and have a look at that webinar, because it's really insightful and informative. And they've also been working on pulling together use cases, which we plan to make available on our website in kind of a generalized catalogue of use cases as we move into 2025. In the next little column here, George also set up an advisory group to support him on what should the RAIN Alliance training syllabus look like. So what are the needs of our member community in terms of training? And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this group has really designed the syllabus and has helped kick off and spearhead and drive and build momentum around the establishment of a number of training programs, and some more which will come online over the coming months. And also now starting to work on transitioning some of the course materials that have been developed to date into online training modules, so that we can really radically grow the number of people who are accessing this training and benefiting from it. Our TIRES working group is also one of the longer standing working groups. This TIRE working group was kind of in a roundabout way responsible for the formation of the RAIN Alliance training component, because the TIRES working group really, when I joined this organization, the TIRES working group really helped me to understand that there was a need for training specifically related to embedding tags, RAIN tags in tires. And that was sort of the seed for developing a wider training offering as we went along. That group has also produced a really powerful white paper in around the September timeframe, which is also available on our website, and I'll talk about that and the other deliverables on the next slide. We have a new work group on looking at the topic of electronic waste. This group is looking at the electronic waste legislation in the European Union and the localized interpretations of that legislation in each of the member countries. So not all member countries have chosen to interpret that legislation in exactly the same way. It's very closely linked with the concept of plastics packaging and recycling of plastics packaging, but it's broader because it's around any kind of electronic waste and how that needs to be handled. So I really look forward to that group producing some spectacular results as we move through the next few months. I've talked about the Digital Product Passport group, and last but by no means least is the working group on manufacturing quality, which was established in this summer of 2024. This working group is looking at actually a really important area. So some end users, particularly in North America, are looking for guarantees of not only do RAIN tags meet performance criteria specific to their needs, but also that the vendors, the manufacturers of those RAIN tags are able to consistently produce those tags at the appropriate quality levels over a period of time. So this group was established in order to define and document an open and transparent specification for manufacturing quality. How do we talk about manufacturing quality? How do we define it in perhaps various grades or various buckets? And what should we as a community be doing in order to provide confidence in the repeatable quality that we're able to deliver as a group of providers and vendors and manufacturers? So that group has really started to build some momentum in the last couple of months, and I'm very positive that we're going to see some fantastic work emerging over the next short period of time. So watch this space as we move in again to 2025. So I referred to a whole bunch of deliverables there, and I have summarized them on this slide. I hope I haven't missed any. I think I have not. I talked about the sustainability report, which is called Bridging the Gap. That deliverable was produced by the sustainability community, which is, I'm not sure if I skipped over it on the previous slide actually, but this was a really important fundamental deliverable that we published back in the April-May timeframe of this year. It's available for free on our website, and as I mentioned, has been translated into Mandarin. This report is a really beautiful piece of work that was based on interviews and surveys to understand how systemically are the sustainability benefits that are yielded by RAIN technology deployments. How well are those connected with and understood by and reflected by corporate sustainability and ESG professionals within our end user community? There's lots of great findings in that report, and please go and have a look at it if you're looking for some Christmas reading. Our Tires Working Group produced their Defining Read Point Configuration Terminology paper in the second half of the year. That's also a really important piece of work. Our Technical Working Group, or How-To Community, as it's now starting to be known, published an overview of the new Gen 2 version 3 air interface that was defined by GS1, and there are some great additions and great new capabilities in the air interface in this particular revision. So for anyone who is interested in understanding how that standard has evolved and what new capabilities do we have, that's where to go and have a look. The Smart Mobility Group just recently published a white paper related to global regulatory vehicle identification with RAIN solutions. Our Digital Product Passport team, I already mentioned, produced a position paper and an FAQ, both of which are really nicely written and nicely published on the website. The Radio Regulations Advisory Group published two leaflets and a document earlier on in the year, really helping our members and the wider community understand the ETSI upper band and recommendations for using radio spectrum. And as the year progressed, they spent quite a bit of time producing a very comprehensive briefing and guidance for our members and again the wider community related to a petition to the FCC by a company called NextNav. We'll talk a little bit more about that again in a couple of slides. But again, that work has been very, very important for our industry this year, and we fully expect that we will be following up on that activity in 2025. Now, these work groups are primarily staffed by our members. So as you can see, there was a tremendous body of work that actually was delivered in the year, and I'm immensely grateful to the members who participated and contributed and drove all of those activities. But that's not all that the working groups delivered. It's a lot, but it's by no means by no means represents the totality. So our working groups also delivered a number of webinars for us in our webinar series, wrote quite a number of blog posts, helped deliver training material, and also presented at our conferences, podcasts, etc. So within the RAIN Alliance community, we truly are blessed with the level of commitment, level of activity, and level of productivity that our members are able to bring to bear, so that we're all advancing, working together to advance the opportunities within this industry sector. So my thanks to everyone who has contributed to all of these deliverables in 2024. I talked a little bit about George joining the team 18 months ago and kicking off our training program. So this year has been really the first year of having a dedicated focus on delivering training, I would say. And as I mentioned, that was kind of initiated and the seed was planted by a Tires Masterclass training course that was produced in 2023. The training program achieved a lot this year. You can see we had 210 individuals attended training events. There's a certification program in place, so that after you have attended one of the training courses, you're able to take an exam and get a certification afterwards. So 57 individuals received certification awards. The satisfaction ratings were very high, and we have 3 new courses under development. And all of that has really been enabled by our member community. So George has been working to effectively orchestrate many contributors from our members in developing and also in delivering these training programs. So tremendous progress here. There's a huge appetite within our member community for training related to all things related to RAIN RFID deployments. In this year, our encoding masterclass was run a number of times, and the Read Point design course came on stream about halfway through the year. We're looking to develop a solutions or project management solutions deployment course in the early new year, and we will be delivering that at the RFID Journal Live event in Las Vegas in May. So lots of progress here. And as I mentioned, we're looking now, 210 individuals trained on specific items is a really great start, but there's a huge appetite for training. And so moving a lot of our training courses or segments of our training courses online through the spring and summer periods is a very important component of our training evolution as we look ahead. We ran 2 fantastic events in 2024. These are actually, I've just realized, in the wrong order. So working backwards, in September, we hosted a Rain in Action event in the beautiful city of Florence that was very kindly hosted by BeyondTag as the host sponsor. 220 attendees, 20% of our attendees, over 20% of our attendees came from the end user community. 35 sessions, so conference sessions, by and large actually presented by end users, and that was not at all by accident. That was the result of quite a lot of work on behalf of Mindy, our conference producer, and that's very much the direction that we want to set for our events in the future. And oh, thank you, darling. Beautiful crown. Thank you. And 44 speakers at the event in Florence. So that was a wonderful, successful event in a great city. And our previous event was in May in Taichung in Taiwan. That was, we call it a connection summit. So we ran it in conjunction with the NFC forum. It was also hugely successful, and it was great to have the combination of two organizations sharing that event together, because there are lots of learnings and lots of synergies from one organization to another, and it's very important for us to make sure we maintain and continue to build those good relationships. So the Connection Summit in Taichung was hosted by SAG, if I didn't mention that earlier, 280 attendees, and lots of fantastic speakers. And actually, you can see here a wonderful networking event where we learned a lot about the Taiwanese culture, which was also really informative and a wonderful, warm experience for those of you who were lucky enough to be there. Our knowledge series is our webinar program, and we really doubled down on our webinar program this year. So in prior years, I would say our webinar program was sporadic at best. This year, we attempted to run one webinar every month. We almost made that. Actually, we deliberately missed out on one over the summertime and also didn't put one too close to our events. So we hosted 10 webinars in 2024. The recordings of all of those are available online. So if you want to go and watch any of those on catch up, they're all there for you. 1,500 registrants in total for those webinars, which is actually pretty good, obviously averaging about 150 registrants per webinar, and just under 800 live attendees. And any of you who run webinars within your own company will know that 50% of registrants actually turning up live for a webinar is a very solid statistic. And of course, this does not take into account the number of people who will have reviewed the recordings of those webinars subsequently. So very proud of the progress we've made in our webinar program this year. As I mentioned, I'm not going to talk about each of the individual topics, but here, if you want to take a look at this presentation subsequently, we have listed all of the subjects and all of the speakers, or at least the majority of the speakers in our webinar program. And again, I'm immensely grateful to all of our webinar speakers and the companies that supported them to enable them to participate in full in producing and presenting on these webinars. So there's a lot of fantastic information available on those webinar recordings. Now, our marketing team has also been really active through 2024, and hopefully many of you will have spotted a very significant uptick in terms of RAIN Alliance presence and activity in the press, in the media, on our own website, and various other external channels. I'm particularly proud to point out that we had in this year, in the middle of the lower half of the slide there, 36 pieces of media coverage secured, and those media coverage articles had a circulation coverage of about 1.4 million individual eyeballs that had the opportunity to see various articles and pieces of information about the RAIN Alliance. That's, a huge step up from previous years. It's very important that we continue to talk and expose and share the successes and share the story of RAIN technology through the voice of the RAIN Alliance. And this is something that, again, we plan to very much continue with this level of activity as we move through 2025. Again, moving on, my slides decided to not move. I mentioned Digital Product Passport a few slides back, and this is a really important topic for the RAIN technology community at the moment. I mentioned that we established a digital product passport advocacy group in May, and that group has very active member participation. It's actually really important with this group that the people who are participating are people who are familiar with how to go about lobbying, who understand and perhaps within their own organization are already involved in influencing legislators and emerging legislation. And it's been really fantastic to get that skill set, if you like, from our member community involved in this group and really helping us drive forward with this. We've been accepted as Sen-elect, typo there, JTC 24 liaison. That happened in the last few weeks, and we have just announced that formally in the last few days, actually. I mentioned that we have published an FAQ and also a fantastic position paper related to RAIN technology and digital product passport, and we have handed that in person and also through other channels directly to various individuals that are influential in the European Commission at the moment. Many of you, I hope, will have seen the next item, which is a statement from Qualcomm, which shows a very real and tangible path to having RAIN readers in consumer handsets. That's very important and kind of a keystone for the success of RAIN as a digital product passport data carrier, because one of the whole goals of digital product passport is to enable the end consumer, so the person, like me and you, individuals, to be able to make informed choices about items at the point of sale or before or indeed after the point of sale. So being able to access data related to the product from a consumer handset is really important. And so working with the fantastic team at Qualcomm to get that statement and be able to publish that statement on the RAIN Alliance website was, a huge and very fundamental point of inflection achievement in this year. We've added the RAIN Alliance SIN and RAIN technology to the draft JTC 24 standards documents, and various RAIN members are actively working on within that group, the JTC 24 group, to make sure that RAIN technology is correctly represented. And we've also communicated the RAIN availability, RAIN reader availability in smartphones to our standardization and business networks. And I mentioned the level of marketing uptake and press uptake on the previous slide. And both of these groups, the Digital Product Passport Working Group and the Advocacy Group, were incredibly productive in preparing and conducting a fabulous digital product passport deep dive session, which spanned a whole day, actually a whole day of content at our RAIN in Action event in Florence. Some of that content has also been shared on webinars, so go and have a look at the webinars, and some of that content is going to feed into training programs as we move through the first half of 2025 again. So I felt, given the importance of digital product passport right now for our industry, that it was worth talking specifically about it for a few minutes and the achievements that have been made there. I want to do the same with the progress in radio regulations in 2024, because also a lot has happened here that is very fundamental to our industry. So first of all, the advisory committee drove the adoption of the ETSI upper band in more than 10 additional European countries. So the map on the left-hand side of this slide shows in green the member countries of the European Union who have now allocated the ETSI upper band for use in RAIN technology deployments. The only real outstanding or remaining countries that have not yet allocated the ETSI upper band, as you can see from the chart, are Germany, the Netherlands, and Greece. The reason that those countries have not yet been able to allocate the ETSI upper band is because the spectrum is in use for military applications in those countries at the moment. So they need to do some work in order to move military applications elsewhere if they're going to be able to allocate the ETSI upper band for our use. Those discussions are ongoing, but of course we don't have a time frame for those. But using the ETSI upper band is a subject that was discussed in one of our webinars towards the beginning of the year. It's very important because it provides power and bandwidth and product design benefits to us all within this community. So enabling that spectrum to be available, formally available, is a very important building block for us. And the second point to talk about here is the effort that this group put into orchestrating an industry-wide response to the NextNav petition, which was filed with the FCC in April. So NextNav is a US company that provides navigation systems, terrestrial navigation systems, as a potential backup to GPS systems. They have filed a petition with the FCC to be able to broadcast at quite high power in a piece of spectrum that's very close to the spectrum that's used by RAIN technology, as well as a bunch of other technologies. We're certainly not alone in being impacted by the NextNav petition. So again, my thanks to all of the member participants and to Joe, who orchestrated the member response to the NextNav petition. The comment period for with the FCC closed at the end of September. There were around 2,000 comments filed in total with the FCC, and so now the FCC are working through understanding all of the comments that were submitted, and we expect that they will announce next steps in potentially the first quarter of 2025. So we're basically waiting now to understand what will need to be done next in regard to the NextNav petition. So that brings me to briefly looking ahead to 2025 and give you some ideas in terms of what you might expect. So first of all, we have a number of opportunities to innovate in 2025. I'm just going to move behind me and turn on my light because I can't see myself. So the first opportunity to innovate that I wanted to talk about is related to Digital Product Passport and some similar-ish legislations that are also underway in various parts of the world. And I've singled out the UN Transparency Protocol here as being one of those that we want to pay attention to in 2025. So the work that I already described that has been done in 2024 for Digital Product Passport does not bring us to the end of that program at all. There is still plenty of outstanding work and continued work that needs to be done, and I look forward to continuing to work with many of our members as we progress that topic. I also just talked about the NextNav petition and that we collectively need to defend our spectrum against threat in any jurisdiction, but it happens that the NextNav petition has been filed in the US. Incidentally, just because that has been filed in the US does not mean that the impact is only a US impact. Actually, I think have made it quite clear in the documentation, the position paper, and the guidance that we issued. I think we've made it very clear that the knock-on impact of the NextNav petition will be felt all around the world. So this is not just a US issue by any means. It just happens to be a petition within the US legislative jurisdiction, but the impacts will be far more wide than the US. I talked on the working group slides about this concept of manufacturing quality certification and producing standards or inputs to standards that are openly available and transparent. That work is ongoing and I think is going to yield some really useful, important work as we move through the first half of 2025. With the Qualcomm announcement that we published in August, we have this very real opportunity to see a pathway for RAIN as a B2C technology. That's something that we need to explore. We need to understand what does that mean in terms of opportunities and what does that mean in terms of challenges that we may need to overcome in order to realize those opportunities. So I think watch this space is what I'm going to say about this one. I will be putting a call for participation, or probably a number of calls for participation live over the next 2 to 3 weeks related to this particular initiative. And then finally, I will also be putting out a call for participation related to producing a catalogue of user stories. So I mentioned that our healthcare community are producing a library of use cases for using RAIN in a healthcare and pharmaceutical context. We need to look at RAIN use cases in a B2C context. We need to, and are already looking at RAIN technology benefits from a sustainability and digital product passport context. So there are a number of different strands to building a user story catalog, but that's very much one of the fundamental deliverables that I would like to see our community drive forward through 2025. Now, I used this slide in Florence, and really the message here is, as you can see, I think we've had a fantastically positive and productive year in 2024. We have delivered a lot, but there's still an enormous amount of work really that needs to be done as this industry continues to grow, as this industry continues to mature. And so the question, are you a rainmaker, is really kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of asking everyone who's listening to this webinar or listens on the recording to think about, is your organization contributing to the community? Are you personally contributing? Are you connected at all of the points where you should be connected? And are you, as a result of those connections, benefiting from your membership of the RAIN Alliance? So this is a bit like, the making New Year's resolutions. I would really love if everyone thought over the holiday period about their engagement with the RAIN Alliance and helping to push the industry forward. Coming towards the end of my slides, we will be running a big RAIN in Action event in Amsterdam in September of this year. We've chosen Amsterdam after quite an extensive search, both in terms of end users who are in a particular city, industry adoption, so that we can get some fantastic speakers from a multiplicity of different industry sectors to attend and also speak at the event, as well as, of course, access from all over the world, etc. So we chose Amsterdam based on some pretty extensive research, and we're really looking forward to that event being an outstanding success, as the 2024 events have been. But before we get to that event in September, we will also be undertaking some member activities as a Trailblazer partner of the RFID Journal Live event in Las Vegas in May, the first week in May, I believe. So for many of you who will be planning to attend the RFID Journal Live event. We look forward to seeing you there. We will be hosting a number of activities in partnership with the RFID Journal team there. So we look forward to seeing you there. And of course, specifically in the beautiful city of Amsterdam. And with that, that is my final slide. I think I'm probably just in time. I wish you all a very happy holiday period and a happy new year 2025. I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible. I'm going to be out on the road quite a lot next year, I already know. Look forward to meeting and engaging with many of you, and also, of course, welcoming you and working alongside you within our working groups and communities. So thank you very much. I will stop sharing and happy to take any questions for the final few minutes if there have been any. Elizabeth, have there been any questions?
There has not been any questions. Nope.
Right, I will stay for about a minute and see if we get any. Otherwise, we can let people get on with their day with a few minutes to spare. Anybody got any questions?
You can use the chat box at the bottom of your screen to put any in, just because you can't come off mute on this type of webinar.
If not, it looks like we have a very quiet crowd today. In the absence of any questions, I probably forgot to point out that we have recently changed the domain name. So our new domain name for our website, Mindy says that chat appears to be disabled, but perhaps you can use the Q&A session instead. We have changed the domain name to be at therainalliance.org. So that's both for our website and our email addresses. Of course, our old email addresses will continue to work and forward to our new domain. But that's quite an exciting development as we recognize the organization separate from the from the technology. So there are a couple of questions. Thank you. So a lot of important activity. Thank you very much, Danica. Yes, it has been a busy year. Tony has a question. Any new teams planned for 2025? Yes, I think there will be. So specifically, as I mentioned there in some of the penultimate slides, I expect that we will be standing up some new teams related to the B2C opportunity that we have ahead of us. So what does that mean? What are potentially the use cases, like the most compelling use cases that are enabled by having rain readers in consumer handsets? And what are the what do we need to do from a technology point of view in order to make sure that those use cases work? So, for example, are there issues related to security that we need to address as a perfect example? So I fully expect that we will be kicking off some one or two teams in the early part of the new year related to that. But if anyone has any other ideas for working groups or teams, you know, we're all ears. They definitely do not need to be driven top down. And many of the best working groups, in fact, are kind of seeded by our members and things that our members feel are important to work on collectively. So really happy to hear any thoughts that anybody has related to that. Some other lovely messages coming in, but I'm not seeing any other questions for the moment. So I think with that, thank you all very much, everybody. Really appreciate all of your contributions, your time, your support, your positivity, and your humor as well as we've gone through some challenges this year and really pulled together as a community. So I wish you all a happy holiday and look forward to connecting with you in the new year. Thank you.